Hey there, everybody. It's Curt with RealmIQ. We're here for another RealmIQ session. Today we have Darren Gibb coming all the way from Spain. He's a digital marketer and has embraced AI, and he's a former teacher. He's a colleague, a peer, and a friend. And so we're really happy to have you, Darren. How you doing? Tell us a little bit about your career and how you ended up where you are.
Very well, thank you, Curt. Thank you for having me. So yeah, it's been a strange old journey into the world of AI. I quite often take it back to the old Atari ST 520, playing around with it and just really going from there to really beginning to see the developments, even just in the last year in the field of AI. And finally, it feels like what I always dreamed it should have felt like when I was in there with the big 3.5 inch, well, the smaller 3.5 inch floppy disk drives. So yes, as you said, I was a teacher. I worked in high schools teaching English literature and language for the best part of a decade, Curt. And I think that's what attracted me to things like prompt engineering, because I think it really is important that you've got a command of language to be able to actually, and a knowledge of prompt engineering, but having good language skills, I genuinely do feel help with regards to prompt engineering, because we're able to actually convey what we want more articulately and be able to do it in a way that I think when you've got an understanding of how the AI can respond to it, it also understands. So it's a strange one, but I do feel there's a lot of what to do related to that. So as a high school teacher, storytelling obviously was a key part of what I did, being a literature teacher. And living in Spain, I also taught language as well. And it was really, I was working in a British school, head of English, head of every bloody job nobody else wanted to do, and quickly learned that actually working for people, especially people who didn't actually care about me, let alone the kids that they're supposed to have a duty of care to, I thought, this isn't my bag. So from there, kind of got into entrepreneurship. Myself and my best friend, we were convinced we knew how to teach English better than anybody else. And we had a methodology which was going to change the world. And yeah, we spent God knows how many hours a week mastering it, putting it out there. But as neither of us had any clue about marketing, we never actually took off. And more than anything else, it damaged our friendship rather than made us a single dime, to use American currency, just for you, Curt, or a cent if we're in Europe, or a penny if we're in Scotland. So COVID came along. I think this is a common thread that runs throughout so many people's stories nowadays. COVID came along, and much like in the high school, I quickly learned actually, no matter how good I might be, nobody gives a damn, Darren. So I didn't lose my job there, but I got offered 50% less hours. And it was really a case of, well, how am I going to put food on the table next month? Teachers live month to month. What am I going to do? So it was really a realization of, well, I can try teaching English online. Okay. But I need to learn how to market. So I started learning the basics of marketing, and that's when I really fell in love with LinkedIn. Started to get quite good on LinkedIn, started getting a lot more impressions, a lot more content, and started winning more clients. So I kind of moved from being an English teacher into this digital marketer who helped other solopreneurs, small SMBs, to use LinkedIn as a vehicle to be leveraging content, to be winning more customers. And then, as I said, it was really in the last year AI exploded. It was something I'd been aware of. I know you were very much Mr. Web 3. Maybe I'm a bit stupid, Curt. I don't know, mate. I just couldn't really get my head around the blockchain and NFTs and let's all bloody well become buying pictures, JPEGs of monkeys. And it just didn't really work for me. But AI truly captured my imagination. Like yourself, Curt, I'm a creative. I enjoy creativity. And I felt AI at its basic levels, such as ChatGPT, Midjourney, just allowed me to start doing things I would not have been able to do otherwise. And so the marketing part of my brain kicked in and went, well, everybody's hearing about the thing ChatGPT. If I can break it down, explain it, and build products around it, then I'm onto something. So then really in the last 4 months, I started building content generation chatbots, but not chatbots. You tell them what you want to do. I use my knowledge of copywriting and marketing to be able to ensure that the copy being produced is of a high quality, that does the function, i.e. to attract people towards your content, gets them becoming customers. So it's this content generation bot that I've really begun to build out and just had so much fun. Somebody who doesn't know Python, doesn't know coding, but can use a no-code platform and build a pretty damn good app or application that is based upon what I am good at, i.e., writing, storytelling, copywriting, and marketing. What a time to be alive, Curt.
Voila, very, very well done. And I have to say, your videos are so entertaining and they're put together well. And I think part of education, which is really important for AI at this point, you're doing a great job and you're a terrific advocate, and you're also developing products, which is different than many other advocates out there. As you know, there's a lot of here's my chat GPT cheat sheet. Say that 10 times fast. And
you get a nasty chat GPT monster appearing in a mirror that sucks your soul. That's what happens if you say that 10 times, Curt. That's the rules.
Yeah. So there's so much of that going on, and it's like an infographic contest, basically. Here's a new way to show prompts. and And the fact is, a lot of those prompts aren't relative to certain people's businesses. So it's like, how do you wade through all of that to just find something helpful? And, the way you do product reviews and, new announcements about new technologies, I think is extremely helpful. And I love it. What we're trying to do with this show, these RealmIQ sessions, is talk with experts and have dialogue, right? Because there's a lot of push marketing out there that's just saying it's a one-way conversation. And I think we're at a critical point in the dialogue around AI, both positive and negative, pros and cons. That conversation is good, and meeting of minds and talking to people in different countries like we are today, and understanding how AI is unifying the globe in certain ways, and trying to find commonalities in a world that is becoming, very diffracted. I'm encouraged by the AI community, even though it's very nascent in terms of Gen AI. I found the community to be very welcoming and very collaborative and supportive, and it's been amazing. After 2 years in Web3, where that went nowhere and was just created confusion as to what is it. As you said, ChatGPT, Gen AI has impacted your life and given you something to hold on to that actually changed your life. And that is a common story. And I think that universal appeal means it's here forever. It's the genie's out of the bottle. There's a lot of implications, because of it. But I think on the positive side of how it's affected every business, every small business, every industry is really incredible. What are your thoughts about this age of AI that we're in?
Exciting and terrifying in equal measures. Yeah, you and I obviously we debated against one another last week. It is. I think that it's really important that we get excited, that we push it for good and so on, but we are very aware of the potential flaws, dangers, and risks associated to it. But I do think it's a fascinating time for businesses. Again, I think we also need to be careful about the workers and what happens when jobs are taken. Yeah. But it's an incredible time. I think as digital marketers, it's an incredible time. I think I think there's a line that's been thrown around a lot, Curt, saying that, AI won't take your job, but someone with knowledge of AI will. I think it's a lazy platitude, actually. I think that it's not helpful in any way to be saying that. I think that it's not so much perhaps even about knowing how to use AI. I think it's about being comfortable with it. I think on a philosophical and on a logical basis of being comfortable with it. I think it's down to companies to be learning themselves and then teaching their workers. Unfortunately, the way that capitalism works, obviously companies are always going to want to cut costs and get things as cheap as possible. So I think there's a moral responsibility upon employers as well, because if all employees can be using AI to enhance their own work within the company, that can only be a win-win basis, especially if these skills are transferable. But to go back to your question, at the age of AI, it is fascinating. I mean, I think you only have to look at things through ChatGPT 3.5 compared to 4, just as an example. Midjourney 4 compared to 5.2. And then I can't imagine what Midjourney 6 is going to look like. I think just the speed at which these technologies are improving is exciting. And I think the idea that any AI that we touch today, it's as bad as it's ever going to be, is again a terrifying and hugely exciting thought. So it's something that is here, as you say, it's here to stay. It's not suddenly going to go away. And I think it's incumbent that people do learn to do it, just like, especially in Western civilizations, when workforces where literacy was, where people were able to become literate. I think it's similar with AI. I think we need to be training people to become AI literate. And the technologies that we have at the moment might seem very confusing, but the fact I can build applications without knowing a line of code is, again, a fascinating thing to do. So again, it's about working with these technologies and ensuring that they are available to everyone, that I think we have incredible benefits that can only benefit ourselves, the workplace, and the world.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time. I look back to the Renaissance, which was in your neck of the woods, and how science empowered man to think about his own destiny and his own creative solutions and observations to redefine what the world meant. And up to that point, it was the Catholic Church that controlled everything. You know, if you look at the Catholic Church back then as big tech, and the Renaissance empowering people to think on their own, and which eventually led to exploring the world and, you know, conquering it in different ways, which is not necessarily great, but but in terms of progress, science, and look where we are today, I think some of those metaphors carry over to the empowerment that is coming through today. And I think that threat, you know, I'm a branding guy, so communication is important to me. Language is important. I know it's important to you, and it's, you know, AI has a branding problem. I've talked about this before. You may not agree, but I think the use of robots and imagery is a negative image. And just like you said, you're going to be not replaced by robots, but someone who knows AI. That's also a negative image. And I think focusing on the positive themes of empowerment and kind of supercharge yourself and elevate and upskill yourself, I think those are the positive messages to get out there, because people, it's more easily to embrace versus, oh, robots, I'm fearful now. I'm going into something I don't understand. Where, you know, conversational AI is here. You know how to speak, you know how to direct something, or, you know, it's prompt engineering, and now is just really having a conversation. And so all these barriers come down. And if we can equate empowerment with the ease of speaking, wow, what an effect, and what an adoption curve that's going to happen because of that, right?
Yeah. I think we also perhaps place too much emphasis on prompt engineering. I'm kind of contradicting myself here, but I think that as AI gets better and it does understand, you know, natural language processing even better, I think, you know, there's a lot of learn prompt engineering, 300K a year. I think, again, it's not quite that accurate. I'm not convinced we will need to learn prompt engineering in 2 years, 3 years time. I think simply the ways that the AI will be able to process things, we can speak a lot of nonsense into it and it will be able to understand exactly what it is we want. Like anything to do with language, there will be better inputs and worse inputs. But I think at the moment, there's definitely there are structures I feel that you need to know, and you need to understand what the AI, let's just use ChatGPT or any large language model, that it responds better to. But it's, it's little tricks like critique, analyze, and evaluate your output before giving me your final answer, because of the way that GPT works, it doesn't know what it's going to be writing at the end as it's writing in the beginning. So the little things like that we can refine and get much better content from. I think it's about, again, I would imagine it will be pre-built in just the coming year or two. That'll start becoming pre-built in. So yeah, I think for many it's an existential crisis, isn't it, Curt? For many it's what happens to us? And I think that's normal, because it's an unknown technology. It is the metaphorical and literal quote unquote other that's coming to take the job. And so there's always going to be fear built around that. But again, to your point, we should be focusing on the positives and the potential that this can bring. But again, I think it requires a cohesive effort from all stakeholders, from Sam Altman right down to the factory worker and beyond. I think this is really important.
And us as advocates in the middle of all that.
Yeah. Yep, saying we're ringing the bells, saying, brilliant, look at this, and also going, hold on a minute. It is important that we're picking out bugs. Yesterday, I think I posted about one of Google Bard's relatively new updates that allow you to snap a photo. So I literally had that, took a photograph of it, and said, where can I buy this? And it found the Logitech R400. It was able to work out the model, gave me the Amazon site. Now, unless I'm careful, it took me to the Amazon US site where it was $40. So if I'm an idiot, I'd have to pay shipping on top of that, and it'd take much longer. So I said, no, I'm in Spain. Make sure it's the best price. Took me to Spain. It gave me one that was 10 euros more expensive than the next one below on Amazon. So I think a little bit like anything, and I think that we must as humans remain critical. And I think this is a skill that needs to be, we've not done a good job of it. Again, speaking as a former high school teacher, I always tried my best to, but we must teach people to be more critical and not just accept the first answer. How many people go past the first page on Google? How many people go past the first 3 hits on Google, actually?
Those are sponsored, by the way. They're not really part of real search.
So this is a problem that we have to really address. I think that it's more important than ever for humans to have critical thinking skills and to have the kind of skills which I feel we would only ever reserve for university students when referencing sources. I think that needs to be done from early years almost, when they're starting to learn to read and write. That needs to be taught. We must be more critical, especially as OpenAI, Sam Altman's openly said, we'll probably never get rid of hallucinations. Well, that's a massive concern if people are taking that as gospel and as truth. But again, so many people, we know the proliferation of fake news and so on in social medias, yet so many people continue to believe them because it's so convincing. And I think that's perhaps the LLM problem, is when ChatGPT says the sky is black, you tend just to agree, oh, it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a time to be lazy and sit back. I think you should question everything, recognize that it is a tool. And I mean, you need to cross-reference stuff. I've asked for, I usually ask for in blog research, find examples and cite the sources. And sure enough, yeah, here's some examples and here's some links and sources, whether it's in Bard or ChatGPT or Jasper, or now Bing is kind of amazing now with DALL-E. But I sat on it for a day or two, and I said, I really need to check those sources. Like, were those real companies that? And it turns out they were not real companies. It was like, and the links were not relevant, and it was like, what the hell is going on?
Evidently, that's happened to me as well.
And that's the hallucination. The hallucination is a term that's out there. And, it's confusing as to whether it's, it starts to ask you about your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever. And it's like, no, a hallucination is ChatGPT saying, oh, yeah, there's these companies out there that do this and put them in your story. Yep. That's the hallucination. because it's not based on anything. And so I had to go back and do my own research the old-fashioned way to really find credible sources. And so it just shows to go, yeah, that you really need to have that critical eye and ear and mind to really challenge everything that you're seeing and reading with these tools, and cross-reference, ask the same prompt in another platform and see what you get.
Then at what point does it actually become less effective to be using ChatGPT for research? This is what I constantly see people using it for. It's the number one thing people say. I'm not sure if it's because they don't want to admit to using Gen AI to be creating content and things like that. So they say research. But what you've just explained to me, I've experienced exactly the same with these hallucinations. And this genuinely is a massive problem that we have. And the fact that the big tech companies are saying we'll probably never get rid of hallucinations, how reliable can it be? And again, it comes down to, I don't want to say human laziness, but I don't know what else to call it.
Right.
We're not going to go through those sources. Again, the footnote for me is another way that Bing, whether it be Bing or whether it be Perplexity or whether it be ChatGPT searching through Bing with Bing search, it looks reliable, it feels reliable, so it must be reliable. You know, it's actually going through that. And you're right, I've clicked on websites and the link is taking me to a website, to the article, but it says something different completely. So, and these numbers that they're quoting are not the official numbers. That's a concern. Now, it will get better. I am sure it will get better. But until it does, there needs to be, as we say, that critical eye spread across all sort of usage of it. On the other hand, we're able to actually question things. We're able to get information and ask questions about it and be specific to it. It is a time-saving resource. I wonder, though, if we do need to be spending that time to be thinking more critically, that we save, to be thinking a bit more critically. But the abilities to research, the potential depth of research, the fact that it is the democratization of knowledge, whereby I don't know if I'm nothing about science or maths. They're two things I'm not very good at. So if you give me a heavily scientific paper, AI is a good example. AI, quantum computing and all that, not a clue. Sorry, don't really understand this. The fact I can the fact that I can upload a PDF and ask questions about it is incredible. Explain this to a 12-year-old. I start understanding it. But again, there's a potential for hallucinations within that. So hallucinations are the big problem that I think us as AI enthusiasts, experts, community need to be trying to work out. And if there is no way that we can guarantee there's no hallucinations, we do need to seriously question if it's something to be used at any level for research, apart from for personal research. When we're putting information out there, quoting statistics that we've been given by a large language model, that creates more disinformation and future models being trained on that disinformation. Before we know it, we don't know what's fact or fiction.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in the marketing world with entertainment and doing movie marketing, we always had to have 3 sources for any quote or review of a movie. And so as a general rule, if that was working for a legal department in an entertainment company or movie studio, then we should do the same thing. It's like, can I find that same quote in 3 places, or that same statistic in 3 places? And that's just due diligence that not only a legal team needs to do, you should do as an author or a blogger or a writer as well.
Well, why can't ChatGPT, and if it can't, or another large LLM, and if it can't, it says, sorry, not sure about that. Now, sorry, Curt, very quickly, Google Bard, I like the fact that when it's not sure about something, it highlights it in a light red color, saying, I'm not entirely sure about this information. I think we need more of that. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's part of that due diligence and understanding these signals that sometimes you do get back and how to interpret them. The thing is, like, a McKinsey report might quote ChatGPT. And so if you're using a McKinsey report as a source, well, they better do a damn good job if they're doing a report on, sourcing it 3 times. So it's a problem. I think these LLMs are getting smarter, and so that will improve with time. So My gosh, this is even though it's been in development for years, since 2018, just this year, I mean, the progress that has been made is incredible.
Absolutely.
Your education background is interesting because it is creating a crisis in the education circles, both high school and college. What are your thoughts about some of that? And that's a whole nother half-hour talk, by the way, but I just love to get your top level insights on that.
Yeah, my top level insights quite simply are this education system globally has not been fit for purpose for well over 100 years. It has not embraced technology. It has not embraced really creativity. It's relied on memory and rote learning. You remember being told by your math teacher, you'll not have a calculator in your pocket when you're older, will you, Curt? I'm sure you remember that. I was told that as well. Well, no, we've now got mobile phones that are more powerful than the bloody rocket they sent man to the moon in. So this is where we are, and education must change. So for me, it's not a question of, oh, how do we ban it? It's a case of how do we reform education? The problem is not AI. The problem is not technology. The problem is the fact that school is so based upon rote learning and memorization of facts and spitting it out in an essay that it is very easily replicable. They can replicate it. An AI, a chat GPT or something. That's the world we live in. Education needs to move on. It needs to be nurturing skills. It needs to be harboring future skills. It needs to be making sure that young people are able to adapt to the world and environment around them. How do we do that? Well, again, it's down to good language skills, good communication skills. That's going to be vital no matter what. Skills that are perhaps, you don't need to memorize history dates and things like that anymore. How often in reality do we use it as adults? It's nice to know, sure. Now, I feel for education, we actually want to be breaking the system completely apart and allowing kids to almost like choose your own adventure. What are they interested in? Because I sure as hell wasn't interested in maths and science. So I mucked around and did nothing when I was a kid. Now, as an adult, I'm fascinated by science. Maths is still crap. Sorry, mathematicians. But science fascinates me. What am I able to do? Research the internet, watch documentaries, read books. These things will come to us, but by forcing people into boxes and making them study doesn't work. So the implications are, as AI evolves, how do we educate young people to be interacting with it? How do we educate young people to be building the next iterations of this technology? That's not to say science doesn't have a place. Quantum physics, quantum computers is mathematics and science, of course. But again, make it more applicable. I'm not convinced the 6 times table really helps out that much. Again, maybe for mental arithmetic does. So look, okay, yes, I would say that. But make it more relevant. Education must be relevant to the applications and processes that these young people might be entering into the future. So if I was a teacher, I always did. When I was a teacher, I always embraced technology. The moment that iPods came out, I was using them within the classroom. We got grant for it, using it within the classroom. Little notebook computers, brilliant. Getting them to record podcasts, make podcasts. What an amazing, enriching language experience that is, rather than teaching them basic nonsense. Problem-solving skills, getting them into technology. Then we got it wasn't mobile phones, but little kind of video cameras with things that popped up. Brilliant. So getting them to write scripts for short movies and things like this. Horrors, right? Macbeth, right? Okay, you're Lady Macbeth. You need to write the ending. And this happened. This needs to happen. Giving them these. This is how kids, therefore, read the text, really learn it to understand it, actually engage with it on their own level, ask questions about it, and then they're doing some cool project at the end. So I would like to think I didn't have many bored kids in my classroom because I love tech and I embrace tech. Now, again, teachers school didn't harbor my love for technology. It should, because tech is here.
It's here.
This idea
They're on it anyway.
Isn't it? This idea that young people are digital natives, it's absolute codswallop. It's nonsense. They're not. Just because kids can use TikTok and a mobile phone does not make them a digital native. It makes them used to it in so much as it's acceptable for them within their peer groups to go out for a dinner and all 6 of them are sitting on their mobile phone. Now, what you and I may think of that as adults is a generational thing. That's absolutely fine. They are digitally native in that sense, but I don't see the kids having skills. It shouldn't be an old fart like myself knew more about tech than those 16, 17-year-old kids around me. It shouldn't be that way. I'm glad it was. It's a lot easier for me, but it shouldn't be that way. So really harboring and fostering these skills and abilities and nurturing curiosity, Curt. That's what education fails to do. Nurture curiosity. And I promise you, AI can be the best friend for that.
Yeah, you need to put the phones down and have a dialogue, and that's what we're doing here today. And I have to say that your analogy of, do we need to be remembering dates? I'm a history buff, even though I wasn't a history major or anything. I just genuinely liked it. I like politics. And I went to art school, and so I had art history, and I always was fascinated of the parallels between art history and history in general, and how certain movements in history were reflected in art, which back during the ages, there was no TV and media. Art was the media. And so all those parallels, I think, is fascinating and important to understand for context. Do I remember exact dates? No, but I remember movements and cause and effect of art and reporting and recording of images with technology that was available at the time. And that's what has, fascinated me. And here we are in a very disjointed world right now with media and news, and we don't know what to believe anymore when it's presented to us. Again, that's a whole nother half-hour show.
It is. I'm even just thinking, sorry, Curt, I'm thinking here as you're speaking, I'm thinking, how would I use basic AI in the classroom? An interview with William Shakespeare. Just number one, teach them the prompting to get that sort of result, and have them asking Shakespeare questions, or about asking questions about a certain play, or rather than why did this happen, I'd be saying what would happen if this character had done this instead of that in the play. The amount of creativity it could help you with, and then using that as a basis for them to then take off and to use their own creativity to extend. AI is not the end point of creativity, my brothers and sisters. I truly believe it should be the starting point of creativity as we enter this brave new AI world.
Yes, and it starts with teachers, certainly teaching the next generation. Darren, thank you so much. We're entering over half an hour, and thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you, and keep up the good work, keep up the faith, and I love what you're doing, and let's keep in touch, and we'll have you back again to talk about some other stuff. And for those of you that are watching, thank you so much for tracking us and following us, the RealmIQ, and what we're doing, certainly with these sessions, and keep coming back for more. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Curt.
Thanks, everyone. You can now catch RealmIQ sessions on your favorite podcast channels, including Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart Podcasts. Or listen to the full sessions at curtdoty.co/RealmIQ. If your company is interested in reaching an audience of AI professionals and decision makers to promote your event or product, we do have sponsorship opportunities. If you enjoy these discussions on AI, please push that subscribe button below. I'll see you in the next video.
RealmIQ. Book your corporate AI workshop today.
Subscribe to our Media Slam newsletter and learn more about the intersection of design, content, and technology. CurtDoty.co. Branding, marketing, and product development.